everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline, and I have a fun show planned out for you today. My guest tonight is paranormal investigator and author Bobby J Gallo. Before we get to him, though, I do have some announcements. I know that we have listeners from all over the world, but here in the U.S., we have a holiday today. It's called Memorial Day, where we celebrate those who gave their lives fighting for this country. So happy Memorial Day to everybody, and thank you so much for those that have given their lives so that we could be free. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening. You can follow any topic as specific as you'd like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin, or even the Kardashians. It'll find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. They also have podcasts, so explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. My show, Fireside Paranormal Podcast, is there too. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use promo code FIRESIDE, where the eyes are ones. I'll also put that in the description, and you receive 1 month free premium subscriptions. Also, make sure you go over to paranormalzine.com and check out American Paranormal Magazine's newest edition. You don't want to miss it. Since I've started Fireside, I've made a lot of really good friends with other podcast hosts, so I want to share their promos with you. The first one I've done before. This is Kristen with the Paranormal Girl podcast.
Have you encountered something you can't explain? Do you believe in the paranormal but haven't experienced it? Are you a skeptical believer too? My name is Kristen, and I host the Paranormal Girl podcast. My show is an education in the paranormal. Join me as we explore a different topic each season and dissect origins, theories, experts, and so much more. Whether it's life after death, cryptids, ghosts, or any other paranormal topic, we will pull it apart and put it back together again to fully understand it. If you're a fascinated skeptic, a believer yearning to know more, if you're looking for an education in the paranormal, I'm your Paranormal Girl.
This next one is from Ken, and he hosts Somewhere in Dreamland.
Are you into the paranormal, true ghost stories, Bigfoot and alien encounters, or high strangeness and conspiracies? Well, if so, then you should check out my podcast called Somewhere in Dreamland. My name is Ken Mark, and every week I interview authors, researchers, and experiencers alike in the fields of the paranormal, cryptozoology, ufology, and spirituality. So why not take a dive down that rabbit hole with me and search for Somewhere in Dreamland wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Somewhere in Dreamland.
I encourage you all to go check them out, go subscribe to their channels, and listen to what they got. They have some really, really great content. All right, now I want to get to our featured story. Today's featured story is going to have a warning in front of it. Usually I edit things out. You know, if there's some language that's inappropriate, I usually try to edit it out, of the interviews. But this story had a lot of emotion behind it, and I felt that it would be unfair to this person to really cut all of that out, and I wanted his story with his emotion to come through. So I do want to give a warning that this next little part does have some language, so if you are younger, you don't want to hear that stuff, skip forward just a little bit, okay? But this story comes in from Devin from Greene County.
All right, my name is Devin. I'm from Ryerson, around Greene County. Ryerson State Park, it's a national park there.
A lot of stuff happening in Greene County.
Oh, absolutely. Recently, like the past couple of years, there's been a oil coming in for natural gas or whatever. And with that, a lot of people have been reporting like Bigfoot sightings and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little shaky because
don't be nervous. You're fine.
One day, I've been listening to Bigfoot, been like, all right, that's cool, whatever. Then I remember whenever it started happening, Mom and Dad were outside on the porch, took a lot, then they heard tree knocks on the hill. There's no one on the hill. We live in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? You don't go on each other's property.
Did you hear the knocks at like the door or out on like?
No, we heard it from the hill,
okay.
like a knock, like a wood tree knock coming in. Then Dad picked up a stick because we cut firewood and stuff. We have a wood oven or whatever, and he hit it on the side of the porch because we had beams, and then it caught back to them. So they were sitting there chilling. Yeah, they were sitting there doing that back and forth, and yeah, I heard that story from them. And then I'd say a year later or two, I went out on the porch and I looked up at the hill, and standing there was a fucking Bigfoot.
Really?
I pissed myself. I didn't shit myself because I just got done shitting. I started crying. She knows this story, and I called my cousin. I'm like, hey, some shit just fucking happened. You want me to come here? He comes here. He went on the hill where I saw it. This thing was like 13 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pitch black, which I expected more brown, but yeah. Yeah, then there's someone, I don't want to say any names, you know what I mean, but there was someone else who have heard Bigfoot around him, like have an audio recording of it. I don't know if he still has it, but he brought people out to go search his property and stuff, and they all found trees that were knocked down, leaning against the other trees.
Really?
And they were all pointed to this lake. And then the people who went out there and saw it said, yeah, that's what they do to have natural resource like water and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate you sharing that story with us. If you have a story that you would like to be one of our featured stories, please email me at firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. And like I said before, you can either type it out or record it and send it in, and we can get it on the show. All right, I want to get to my guest tonight. Join me by the fire as we welcome Bobby J Gallo. He is the author of Family Spirits. Bobby, you with us?
I am with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, you have more than just the books going on. I see here you're a magician as well.
Yes. Professional magician, was full-time for about 15 years.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to make sure I plug it. Look, you're the co-creator and headmaster of the International Conservatory of Magic.
Yes. We started that back in the late 90s, and that was and still is the world's largest online school for magicians. Unfortunately, pretty soon that's going to actually be turned into a book and go defunct, because with the advent of YouTube, we really don't have the members that we used to have at one point.
Right, yeah. But that's a big deal. How long have you had that? Like 30 years?
Yeah, yeah. It's as old as my oldest daughter, and she's now almost 25 years old.
Oh,
so.
gosh.
Crazy.
Wow, well, congrats on that. That's a big deal.
Thank you very much. It's definitely one for the record books.
Now, Bobby, this isn't just you, right? Your whole family is into the paranormal.
That is correct. It's not just me. It's me, my wife, and my two daughters, and we have been investigating as a paranormal team since 2010.
Wow. Now, was it hard to get the daughters to join up?
Oh, on the contrary, they're the ones who pulled me back into it. It's the truth. I've actually been doing paranormal investigation since, I believe it was 1989 was my first investigation. And I was doing it with a bunch of friends, and, we named ourselves the Psy Guys, and we ended up investigating an old haunted theater, which was actually built by my two great uncles, and we got wind that it was haunted, and we went and investigated it, and we had activity, and we even have it on videotape, believe it or not. And it was just, it was that long ago, but I stopped doing it for a bunch of years after that. I became a professional magician. I got a family, raising a family. And my kids had never known that I was a paranormal investigator at one point. So what happened was this brand new TV show comes on that you might have heard of, called Ghost Adventures.
Oh, yeah.
And my kids were just enthralled with these guys. And I was fascinated because I'm sitting there every time we'd watch an episode saying, this is almost exactly what I was doing, back in 1989, 1990 with the Psy guys. So one day, we're sitting on the couch, and this was probably about 10 episodes in. I turned to the kids and I said, kids, Daddy used to do that once too. And all of a sudden the world stopped. And it's the truth. And it was like that moment in the movie Spy Kids where they just go, my parents aren't cool enough to be spies. It was kind of like that thing. And immediately they wanted to go ghost hunting. No fear, no hesitation. They wanted to go. If Dad was like these guys, they wanted to be part of it. So I started brushing up on what people today were doing, or, at least 10 years ago, as far as equipment and whatnot, because I was really rusty.
Oh, yeah. A lot of new stuff out now, too.
Oh, yeah. And even since, from then until now, things have changed so dramatically. So we got together some rudimentary equipment, and we went out, and I just wanted to get one picture. I just wanted to get one EVP, anything. How cool would that be, I was thinking? And how cool would that be for the kids? What an experience. Well, as it turned out, we ended up getting mind-blowing evidence, not just on the first investigation, but every time we would go out, we would get incredible EVPs. We would get incredible EMF communication. And we ended up getting more evidence. And I know, this is a big claim, but we ended up getting more evidence than we were seeing the guys on TV get. Pretty soon, the kids didn't even want to watch TV anymore. They just wanted to do it themselves. And I said, I would videotape everything. I was your typical dad that had the video camera wherever we went. So I would videotape this. I said, just out of curiosity, let me post one of these clips on YouTube and see what happens. And back then, you could count the number of people doing, paranormal web series literally on one hand. It was that new.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you saw these guys on TV, but people doing it on their own was still a pretty rare phenomenon. Well, our first video went viral, tens of thousands of views on YouTube. And I said, wow, maybe there's something here. So what I did is, we gave ourselves a name and we started posting our investigations on YouTube, and it pretty much just took off. We became like this underground phenomenon that people just absolutely loved, because it wasn't just the evidence, it was the dynamic of the family who ghost hunts. And that's where, and years later, obviously, I said to myself, there's so much that people don't know about what happened during these investigations, because when you watch them, even today, you can watch all of our web series online, on Vimeo. There's so many things, so much that happened behind the scenes, like, what happened during the car ride on the way home from some of these investigations. So I floated it out there to a lot of our fan base and said, if I wrote a book, would you read it? And everybody immediately said, oh my gosh, you have to do this. So basically I started writing Family Spirits in 2019 based upon the 60 investigations that we had done. And when I published it, it actually hit number 3 on Amazon in the adventure travel category.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we actually sold more copies abroad than we did in the United States, like several hundred copies in the United Kingdom alone. And it's just been a phenomenal ride. I mean, my kids were not prepared for this at all, because we would go to book signings and there were people lined up to get their autograph, and they were like not used to that. They still are, to be honest.
That's awesome.
And,
now, is everybody still active in it? Like, because
yeah,
I mean, time
still...
has passed. They're a little older, got things going on. Are they still
Yeah, well, that's it exactly. I mean, right now they do have a lot of things going on. So the investigations that we used to do constantly are now becoming more and more sporadic because they are getting older. It's not that they've lost interest. It's just that, their attention has shifted a little bit. I mean, we have a lot of Paracons that we're going to be doing this summer.
Nice.
And they're going to be coming with us, Renee and I, my wife, to a lot of these Paracons. because, the ones we did last year, people miss them. They were happy to see me and Renee, but they wanted to see the kids. And because the kids steal the show in the videos, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And how old were they in 2010?
Oh my goodness. I believe Courtney was 8 and Nicolette would be like 14, 15.
Dang.
Yeah.
Now with the 8-year-old, was there any, was there any fear with her? Was she trying to go to bed at night and be like, Daddy, I'm a little freaked out?
Nope.
Not at all.
In fact, she was the bravest one of us all.
Really?
And yeah, this kid would, I had to get walkie-talkies because, sometimes we would investigate these enormously old cemeteries and she'd go off on her own trying to find the ghost. And I said, you better take this because I need to be able to contact you at a moment's notice. And but that was her nature. And she was also the one who got some of the best communications too, but she was also the one that was targeted a lot by spirits. And how can I know this? Because a lot of the EVPs that we would get on these investigations specifically mentioned her name and were directed towards her.
Really? They were saying her name?
Yep. Absolutely.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Now, did you as a dad have any hesitation bringing her on investigations after hearing that?
Well, here's the thing. We were up in Salem doing an investigation, and between investigations, we would, do the whole tourist thing up there. And the kids wanted to get a reading from the Salem witch. And I'm like, all right, let's go. So we went into this magic shop, which was a real magic shop, not like magician's tricks. And right during the reading, Courtney's getting this reading, and right during the reading, there's this Salem witch. She really looks the part, and she's reading Courtney. She stops right in the middle of the reading, and her eyes get really wide while she's looking at the cards, and she goes, "You're under the personal protection of Saint Michael."
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And what really made it strange was, here is this, pagan witch telling my daughter that she's under the personal protection of a Christian saint. It was just kind of like weird, but I believed it because honestly, Courtney never really had any issues. We did, take precautions, that every paranormal investigator should do. And, I have my own personal beliefs, I discuss them in the book, Family Spirits. I think there's more to be afraid of the living than the dead.
Yeah.
We've had some frightening experiences in the past, but you know what? This has been a character builder for the kids. And, this whole adventure has made them into fearless women, where there's grown adults who are terrified at the prospect of seeing a ghost. These kids, they've seen it all, and they're not afraid. And fear is your number one enemy on an investigation anyway. Any negative energies will feed off of fear. As long as you're not afraid, you don't have that much to worry about. And I have some other rules as well.
Okay.
That as long as you follow them, you should be okay.
Will you share those rules with us?
Absolutely. Number one rule is you don't ghost hunt at home. Your home needs to be your sacred space. A lot of people do Ouija boards and try to test out new equipment by contacting spirits in their home. It's the worst possible thing you can do.
Now, let me ask you, why is that? Because that was when I was doing investigations too. There was no way I was doing it at home. So, but that was just because I wanted to be able to sleep at night.
Right. Exactly. And because when they come into your sacred space, sometimes they stay. You could tell them to leave. It doesn't mean they're going to leave. When you call them, they will come. So you don't want to do this at home. And I've seen so many people do this and have so many problems as a result. And they end up having to call in psychic mediums or clergy to cleanse the home. And this all could have been avoided if they left the investigation outside of the home somewhere.
Leave work at work.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
I said leave work at work.
Exactly. Leave work at work. So that's my number one rule. My number two rule is never take anything home from an investigation because objects have known to be haunted and carry spiritual attachments. So, don't, even if it's a cool looking rock, is your evidence and your personal experience. Everything else you should leave there. Once again, leave it the way you found it. So that, and I think that's very, very important. Number 3 is don't antagonize spirits. I know we see this a lot on these popular paranormal television shows, but don't do it, because they're not afraid of you, and they can cause you a lot of trouble. So you want to be respectful, and this way you will attract, respectful, entities, to contact. And that dovetails into another thing, which is intention is everything. So if you have good intentions, usually you'll get good results. If you have bad intentions, well, you're going to get what karma delivers.
That's right. And that ties it, like you said, it ties into the other. Like if you're there antagonizing and things like that, what do you think you're bringing out?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And there are others, but I think those are those to me are the main ones. And of course, I believe you should have some kind of spiritual protection. And I know there's a lot of paranormal investigators out there that their whole purpose in life is to debunk everything, but they could be wrong. And you should have spiritual protection, because even if you're an atheist, you have to understand that these things exist regardless of what you believe.
Right.
And that's why spiritual protection is going to be different depending upon, your spiritual understanding. I mean, me personally, I'm a Roman Catholic, so, we carry blessed medals of St. Benedict, which is the devil chasing medal, which I talk about in Family Spirits. That's been used for hundreds and hundreds of years to keep away, negative energies, basically. It actually has an exorcism, engraved on it. So,
wow.
We carry those all the time. And, there's nothing, you could use just a regular cross if you're a Christian, or, a mezuzah if you're Hebrew, or, if you subscribe to the, New Age methodologies, various stones such as black onyx or quartz could work for you, but you have to do something.
Now, I want to piggyback off of one of your rules there about not taking anything from an investigation. And I got a personal experience with this, because, starting out, everybody gets weak, right?
Yep.
So we did this investigation. They had a lot of activity in their home. And when we were going through, they had like some yard sale kind of stuff out in the front. And I was in my early 20s, and my little brother was wanting to get a bird, and they were giving away a bird cage. And they were like, yeah, take it. It's fine. Go ahead. Perfect. Right? Had a bird cage.
Mm-hmm.
Went and bought him a bird, all that. Great big brother. Right? He's about 10 years younger than me. So he was like 9, 10 years old. Well, things started happening. He was like real depressed and sad, like loved the bird, all that. But he'd sit there and say, I'm having all these bad thoughts, and, this is going on, and I'm hearing things. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, it's that bird cage. Like, you don't think something that simple, but yeah, it attaches to anything. If a spirit's seeing a way out, hey, I want to get out of this house. Hey, I'm going to follow this guy. I'm going.
Yep, absolutely. And what a lot of people don't realize, you get a lot of skeptics, you get a lot of unbelievers, as we call them, and they're like, yeah, well, how is that possible? How can something attach to an object? They have to realize that everything is electromagnetic. In the paranormal has an electromagnetic base. And, that's why we use, EMF detectors to detect paranormal energies. I mean, the theory basically is either ghosts themselves, or the method by which they manifest on this plane of existence is electromagnetic by nature. So electromagnetism can attach to just about anything. In fact, one of our most negative experiences were with the dowsing rods.
Really?
And yeah, and how I found out that it was the dowsing rods that were the root cause of the problem. One day I said, it was just a hunch. I had no clue. But I took my EMF detector, I have like all different kinds, but I, took one of my better ones, and I held it close to these dowsing rods. The needle pinned on the EMF detector. Now, these things should not be holding an electrical charge. They're not plugged in. They don't have batteries.
That's not how they work.
That's not how they work at all. But apparently they obtained an attachment or probably several, and I had to get rid of them. And after I did, things slowly got better. And that's another thing. This isn't like the movies where all of a sudden the entity leaves and poof, so you feel light as a feather and everything's great. When there's a negative attachment, or God forbid, even a demonic attachment, it's like a bad flu, and it goes away very, very slowly. That energy doesn't dissipate immediately. And I've been told this by a lot of people, and we've also experienced it. So, that's why people need to be careful, because there are risks associated with this. I'm not going to lie to you. And if I knew all of the risks that were inherent in paranormal investigation back in the beginning, maybe I wouldn't have brought my kids on all of these outings. But because I'll be honest with you, back in the very beginning, we were listening to a lot of the quote unquote love and light people who believe that, once you pass on, everything is love and light and there is no more evil or whatever. Well, let me tell you,
that's not it.
There is. There is. So
you
need to be careful.
I had a big eye opener, after I had Bishop Long on, and he said something just as simple as, inviting demonic spirits, people who do EVP sessions, is there anybody here? Talk to me. What's your name? Things like that. If you're in an area that's got a demonic spirit and you're doing that, you're inviting that spirit to go along with you. And, all of these times, Lord knows how many times I've said things in places, but
it's funny you should mention Bishop Long. I interview his boss in my next book. Archbishop Christina Rake is in my next book, and she was just wonderful. What a mind-blowing interview we had. And she's going to be in Family Spirits too, which is going to be published, very soon. But yeah, no, I know Bishop Long very well. That's what a great guest he probably was.
Oh, absolutely. Now, in your book, do you go into, you said you talk about like 60 different investigations. Do you go in detail on what happened with the investigations, the experiences that you had?
Yes, I do. And that's why it's almost a 300-page book, my first book, Family Spirits. And I go through each investigation and we talk about each one. And what's great about that, and what a lot of people really enjoy about it, is the fact that it works two ways. If they read the book and they never watched the web series, now they can actually go to the web series and watch exactly what they just read. Conversely, if they're familiar with the web series, now they can go to the book and see the behind the scenes of each of these investigations. So the first half of Family Spirits is a paranormal primer. It's basically everything I know about the paranormal, and I'm not kidding when I say that. I put it all out there. The second half is a walkthrough of all of our investigations up to that point.
The correlation with your web series and the book, is it all just videos on YouTube? Do you do like the entire investigation, just little clips? Like, how long are these videos?
The videos are, I would say, average about 20 minutes each. And they're by no means the entire investigation, because it would just be too long. Occasionally, I would put out raw, unedited footage out there just so people can see an entire investigation. But most of the time, they're edited and, so that, people can watch them until the end. But when you do that, you do miss some things sometimes. So, that's why, in the book, you can read about exactly what happened and what we were thinking when certain things happened. Like, for instance, my wife, Renee, in our first few investigations, when we were getting EMF communication with our EMF detector, because I was a magician, she thought I was faking this. She really did. And she's like, "You're totally faking this. This is not really happening." And it was at Kings Mountain Battlefield where I gave the EMF detector to you, and I say, "Here, you try it. And it happened in her own hands. And that's when she became a believer. And then she realized that this was all on the level. And then when I got her a pair of dowsing rods, unfortunately, the ones we ended up having issues with, she picked those things up. It was like she was using them her entire life. She became an amazing, I would say, medium, if you will, using these things.
Wow. Now, with being a magician, have you had any kind of backlash, like from your wife, from being a professional magician for so long and then doing this?
Well, I tell people, Fiona Broom, who's a very, very, she's got a big, big following, but, the paranormal field is weird because a lot of people don't know who she is, even though she has this enormous following. She did the foreword to our first book, and she said it, I appreciated what she said in the foreword. She goes, being a magician is Bobby being a magician can spot things. He's almost like a real life Jonathan Creek, which is like this British TV series where a magician debunks things, I believe. And that's why as a magician, if something is fraudulent, I could pretty much spot it. And that's why Houdini, half of his act back in the day was debunking fraudulent spiritualists. He did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But whereas he was trying to debunk all the spiritualists, I was doing the opposite thing. I was trying to eliminate the fraud so that I can take the remainder of what was left and see if that was real. Because you see, I'm a believer. I believe this is real. Houdini didn't. So that's where we differ. But we both use being a magician and the paranormal, in similar ways.
That's really cool. That is really neat. And it's an ability that a lot of people don't have just because how some tricks work. You know how this could happen or this could happen or this could happen. And
exactly,
you could see right through it.
Exactly. And I'm really good at spotting fraudulent mediums because I know how to cold read. But that being said, I know for 100% certainty that genuine mediums exist. And I, especially in family spirits too, I really tackle that subject and relate a story where, there was no way an experience that I had with the medium could have been fraudulent because it was just too amazing. So, it usually brings people to tears when they read it.
Wow. Now, can you give us some of those tips? How do you spot a fraudulent medium?
Well, there's a technique called cold reading. And for those people who want to be mediums but really can't, they can study this technique, which was really developed for stage mentalists. It was a way for theatrical mentalists, not real mentalists, to pretty much convince an audience that they could really read minds, but they couldn't. And it's basically by asking high probability questions and then interpreting the body language of the subject to try to hit upon certain things that the sitter, if you will, would think it's impossible for them to know. But usually they're generalities. And, somebody who knows what cold reading is knows that they really didn't discover anything. They're just fishing for information.
Now that's when they're like, is there anybody over here on this side? The letter M means something to you. Like that kind of stuff?
That kind of thing, yes. Yes, that kind of thing.
Now, can somebody be, let's say in their heart they feel that they're a medium, but they're really doing cold readings and they don't know what that is, but they think they're true in their gift?
Well, I've said that I said this in Family Spirits, I believe there's three kinds of people when it comes to this. I think there's genuine mediums, I think there's the frauds, and I think there are people who think they're mediums but really suffer from schizophrenia. They're hearing voices in their head, but they think they're spirits. Mm. And that's through no fault of their own. But I can see how that happens. Conversely, I think some people that are diagnosed with schizophrenia may actually be genuine psychic mediums. And I'm not the only one who feels that way.
Yeah, and I can see how that cross could happen.
Yep,
I mean, it's a thin line, hey, I'm seeing this and I'm hearing these voices. Oh, they're hearing things and seeing things. Lock them up,
Right, exactly. Well, The experience that I had with a medium, it was one of those. There was no cold reading involved here, and I wasn't even sitting for the reading. My sister-in-law was sitting for the reading, and I was 5 states away at the time. My father had passed away from pancreatic cancer in 1983. And for years and years and years, I was having dreams where he was alive, but in that cancerous, emaciated state. And he was very distant and cold and things of that nature. And I was plagued by these dreams, but nobody knew it because I never told anybody. And one day I'm down south. I'm living in South Carolina at the time, and my sister-in-law calls me. And she says, Bobby, she goes, I get something I have to tell you. And I said, hey, Jill. I said, okay, yeah, what's going on? She goes, I sat for a psychic reading. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And she goes, no, you don't understand. Right during the reading, the medium paused and says, do you know a Vince? Now, this is an actual name. And my sister-in-law goes, yeah, that's my father-in-law. He passed in 1983. And she goes, he has a message for Bobby. You need to get this message to Bobby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is 5. Now, this person doesn't know me, and I'm 5 states away. Okay. She said, tell me, I don't look like that anymore. Tell him that I'm young again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't speak. It was overwhelming. My heart was in my throat. And I said, up to that point, I always believed in ghosts. I said, but nothing like this. This was proof positive. This could not have happened unless this was real. There's no other explanation. And I didn't know until fairly recently, I didn't even know who this psychic medium was. Recently, I learned the identity of who she was, and her name was Sylvia Rossi, and she is not only a verified psychic medium, she's actually one who helps police solve cold murder cases.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, for real. Once I found out who this was, I contacted her, and I told her the backstory of that message she delivered. She was blown away because, she's just a messenger.
Yeah.
She didn't know the backstory. When she heard the backstory, she was amazed. And I begged her. I said, you have to let me interview you for my second book. And as fate would have it, she is going to be in Family Spirits too.
That's cool.
It is.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah. And she's one of the most trusted mediums that I know or anybody else knows. I mean, if people ask me about it, I just point them to her. She's that, and she didn't want to be a medium. She was she went to university. She had a life plan, and this calling pretty much chose her. And to this day, she wishes she had done other things, but her story is so amazing. Once you read it, you'll realize why she had to do this.
No, I want to give a little plug, I guess, for a friend of mine and her podcast. Her next series is going to be on psychics and mediums. She is like a skeptical believer of things, and every season she goes through something. I want to get her in contact with you to tell some of these stories to her. That'd really help her out with that. That would be really neat. Now, I want to ask you with, because you brought up your religion, right, as a Roman Catholic. When we talk about spirits, when we talk about ghosts, when we talk about things like that, where are your views? Where do they lie with how it lines up with your beliefs?
Well, that's a great question. And it's another thing that we talk about in Family Spirits too, because Archbishop Christina Rake is also a psychic medium. She's not only the head of the American Old Apostolic Catholic Church, she's also a psychic medium. And she wrote a book called God's Ghosts and Mediums in the Afterlife in the Bible. It's one of the best books I ever read. And we pretty much agree on what's going on here. I think most spirits and entities that we contact through paranormal investigation are indeed earthbound spirits of people who are either trapped here or are able to go back and forth for some reason that they're, able to do that. There are earthbounds, the spirits of people that are trapped here for some reason. A lot of them are miserable and a lot of them are troublemakers, and that's where you have to watch out. Demons are very rare. And the reason demons are very rare is because demons don't want to contact you or talk to you. The reason being, they don't want you to know they exist at all. They influence people and influence the world behind the scenes. That's really what they do. And the second that you know they exist, that gives you power over them, and they don't want that. So that's why it's actually improbable to contact a demon on a paranormal investigation. Most of the time, they're just really low vibration earthbound spirits.
And what do you mean by that? Low vibration earthbound spirits?
Well, there's a lot of speculation as to why these spirits are earthbound. They could be earthbound for any number of reasons, but most of the time it's nothing good. The Bible actually describes hell as a separation from God, not necessarily fire and brimstone. And who knows, this could be that separation. So you can get somebody who's really nasty during life, you let your imagination run wild, and they're just locked out of the party and they have nowhere else to go. They're here. And they could cause a lot of trouble because they cause a lot of trouble in life. So that's pretty much what I mean in a nutshell.
Okay. I see that.
So I think that's where you need to be careful, in paranormal investigation. But again, Sylvia Rossi says this in the interview, they don't want you to know they exist, demons. So they do exist, but they're more than likely not communicating with people. I'm not saying in all, I can't make a blanket statement like that, but I think in most cases.
Yeah, I've always felt like we give demons too much credit.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Anything, because, there's the people that every time they hear a bump in the night, it's a demon.
Right. Well, a lot of the fundamentalists will tell you that everything is a demon, that there are no ghosts. They believe in the cosmic vacuum cleaner theory that I describe in Family Spirits. I coined that, by the way, which basically means that when you die, you either get sucked up or sucked down, and you have no choice. You can't stay here for any reason at all. And that's what they believe. So they believe that anything that you are contacting, by definition, has to be a demon.
But wouldn't they be sucked down?
One would think.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Now, I heard a really neat theory, and if you don't know, I'm a Christian as well. I'm an ordained minister.
Okay.
And I heard a theory about the Nephilim, right? Because they were abominations from God. The angels, for those of you listening, it was, when the fallen angels, came down, they slept with women and had babies. Those babies are the Nephilim.
Right.
They were giants. Goliath was the son of a Nephilim. The theory is because they were an abomination, they didn't have a place to go. Obviously, they couldn't go to heaven. They couldn't go to hell. They were stuck. And a lot of the evil kind of entities that we see, I don't want to say, maybe a lot of the stuff that we consider demonic, the real dark entities, are really spirits of the Nephilim.
Well, I'm not going to discount anything because we don't have all the answers. And everything that I've just stated so far in this interview is conjecture. I mean, but that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're trying to figure this out.
Absolutely.
So you could be right. And I'm not, and I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so far, in the past, I don't know how many years I've been doing this, what I believe makes sense to me. But, if you come up with a great, a great explanation like that, hey, that could absolutely be the case. Who knows?
Hey, like I said, it's just a theory I heard. And I was like, wow, okay, I never really put much mind into that, but how about that?
Well, it's a good one. It's a good theory. But here's the thing, and being an ordained minister, I'm glad you told me that about you, because, here's the thing that I've said, and Archbishop Christina Rake actually agreed with me on this. Whenever we're on an investigation and we ask one of the deep philosophical questions to a spirit, we've had some long communication sessions, but as soon as we say, have you seen God? Or have you seen Jesus? Or is this hell? Or is this purgatory for you? Whenever we ask anything like that, communication usually stops immediately and they're gone.
Really?
And I believe there's such a thing on the other side as forbidden knowledge. We are allowed to know certain things and talk about certain things, but there's certain things that we are just not allowed to know right now.
I could agree with that.
I think they're not allowed to tell us, to be honest.
Or do you think that question scares the spirit away?
Well, that's a great question, because that's what Archbishop Christina Rake says in Family Spirits too. Some spirits are afraid of judgment, so as soon as you start mentioning God and those things, they leave. Very interesting.
Isn't it? Can you get into one of the stories? Like, what do you think is your favorite experience that you had? Just the most mind blowing, did that just happen kind of experience that you've had in an investigation?
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's if anybody listening to this podcast wants to go to our web series and watch one show, because usually people tell me that, but I just want to watch one. Tell me which one to watch. The title of the episode is called The Hidden Grave of Thomas Sprott. Watch that one, because that's the one where you will see, first of all, in the beginning, the preliminary investigation, which I did alone, was the only time I ever got scared. And you'll see why when you watch it. But later on in the investigation, my daughter, who was taking infrared photography as we were communicating with the spirit that we believe was of a Revolutionary War hero called Thomas Sprott, she starts getting a spirit manifestation through her pictures in real time, one after the other. It started as a small ectoplasm cloud, and in a succession of shots, morphs into a full body apparition standing right next to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And you could see where she's going, Dad, you got to see this. And I'm sitting here like, no, honey, we'll do evidence review later. She goes, no, you got to see this now. And I'm like, no, honey. And I look, I'm like, holy moly. Like, wow. And it was, to this day, it's one of our most impressive pieces of evidence. And you could see it on the episode. You could see this thing standing right next to me, wearing a cloak with a collar. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how often, because infrared is one of those things that great investigation tool, but the evidence that you get from it is few and far between, for, obvious reasons. Real evidence is few and far between, but but as far as using that tool, like when you get it, wow. How often do you get something from that?
We've gotten a lot on these particular, we have these cameras and they stopped making them. I wish, I actually have two of them, because I actually found another one on eBay, because I'm always looking on eBay. If I see a third one, I'm going to buy it. It was a Bell & Howell S7 Slim with night vision. And these things were so good. The orbs they get are amazing. The infrared ability is amazing. But to answer your question, how often? We've gotten a fair amount of evidence with them, to be honest with you. Not always, but we've got a huge ectoplasm cloud with it in a haunted farm investigation that we did. And I call it the world's biggest orb, because it almost blocked out the entire viewfinder. We do get it. We do get it. I do think, though, not every camera with infrared is as good as every other. I think
Agreed.
Once you get something that's really good, you need to stick with that.
Now, what do you feel about all these phone apps?
Mixed feelings. And I talk a lot about that in Family Spirits 2. I talk about it in Family Spirits 1, but I talk about it in Family Spirits 2. And the reason I say that is because we've gotten some mind-blowing evidence with phone apps, one in particular I can tell you about. But here's the thing that people have to be aware of. The genuine article, there's apps made by Danny Bigbeard, who's a good friend of mine, and Scott Krug of Krugism. These guys have developed these things with genuine paranormal investigation in mind. Those things are on the level. But all of these other manufacturers have hopped on board and made paranormal simulators. And they're basically party tricks. And when you go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, they're all mixed in with the genuine ones. So you don't know which ones are real and which ones are not.
Yep.
And that's the problem right now with them. There's so many there's more that are just for entertainment purposes only than the ones that are genuine paranormal application. But Scott Krug, who made an application called the Ghost Speaker, which is basically an Ovilus type of app, which if your listeners don't know what that is, it basically has a built-in dictionary of words. Well, usually
like a ghost box,
words.
right? Like a spirit box?
What's that?
Kind of like a spirit box?
Kind of like a spirit box. And the theory is that a spirit could go in, pick out a word, and communicate. Now, a lot of people think, they're just spitting out random words and it's just coincidence. And I thought that too until we did this one investigation, and it's on an episode called Grave Matters. And we were in a cemetery next to a mausoleum that was broken into. And all of a sudden, a word comes through the ghost speaker that says 11, the number 11. And, what's number 11? That doesn't mean anything. So my daughter taps me on the arm and says, "Daddy, look at the name on the mausoleum." The name on the mausoleum was Elavine. One letter difference.
Oh.
Yeah. So since Elavine wouldn't be in the dictionary, the spirit did the next best thing. It picked out the closest possible word.
Oh,
and
that's
then
crazy.
When we asked why the mausoleum was broken into, the next word was witchcraft. Because if you know anything about Asheville, North Carolina, there is a very large Wiccan community there.
I did not know that.
Yes. And so, once you get evidence like that, you're like, okay. Because let's put it this way. The chances of that word coming through at random are 1 in 2,000. But the chances of that word coming through to match the name on a mausoleum is like 1 in a million.
Yeah, I'd say more than that.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, what more can I say?
I bet your daughter's eyes about popped out of her head.
Oh, forget it.
Hey,
so
Bob,
yeah, I have mixed feelings on that, but we've gotten some good evidence with phone apps, so I can't discount it at all.
Yeah, and like you said before, we're all just trying to figure it out. So.
Right. The only thing I would tell the audience is if you get a phone app, just know what you're buying. I mean, and look at the reviews and, really try to do your research because most of these are not on the level.
Now, Bobby, how do folks get up with you? How do they find how do they find your book? How do they find your web series?
Well, luckily, I used to have this whole laundry list of websites, but somebody invented this thing called Linktree, which is the absolute greatest invention in the world. So I have one URL, and they go to this URL, and there's everything there. There's our web series, there's the book, and there's a whole bunch of other things. Basically our whole paranormal world, and that's ghosthunter.ws. So ghosthunter.ws. You go to that, you go to our Linktree, and everything is right there.
Now, if they want to contact you, do you travel far for investigations? Do you stay locally? What's your preferred distance?
Well,
I guess.
Again, it's tough to get the whole family now to go on trips unless it's kind of like a vacation these days. But we will if it's a good opportunity. My only thing is, and I tell people this all the time, and believe it or not, sometimes people have said no. It's like, if I do an investigation, I have to be able to videotape it and use it for the web series.
Yeah.
Because, if I get good evidence, I want to be able to share it. But yeah, I will definitely do that. I mean, if people want to contact me, we met on Twitter, and that's probably honestly the best way to contact me because I'm always on there. And that's at Bobby J Gallo.
At Bobby J Gallo.
Yep.
Hit him
very
up on
easy,
that
right?
Twitter sphere.
Yeah, but that's also on ghosthunter.ws too. All my social media is on there.
Perfect. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is really exciting. Your books seem really neat, and it's really cool that you have your whole family involved with it. So
Thank you.
Now,
Thank
how
you.
soon do you think the next book's coming out?
Well, believe it or not, I'm doing final proofreading right now.
Awesome.
And as long as I don't find any more typos, we're looking at probably a month.
That's great. After the new book comes out, I want to try to get you scheduled back on to go over some of those stories that we couldn't talk about pre-book release.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing that a whole hour just went by. That flew.
Time flies when you're having fun, Bobby.
Absolutely. I hope everybody thought this was interesting because this was a lot of fun for me.
Hey, Bobby, thank you so much, and we will be talking soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Bobby J Gallo. Thank all of you for listening each week. Tell your friends about the show. Make sure you rate it and review it on whatever app you listen from. That does help me out greatly. So I appreciate all the ratings and things like that that I've received so far. It means a lot to me. If you haven't connected with me yet on the socials, Fireside Paranormal Hub on Facebook is like the main go-to for a lot of folks. We have a lot of past guests that are on there, a lot of really cool, just really cool people that just want to share their knowledge of the paranormal, want to discuss paranormal things with other folks. A lot of really funny paranormal memes. If you haven't got onto the group yet, you know how those algorithms go. If you haven't logged into the group in a while, you might want to click back onto it just so you see it in your feed. We're on Instagram, Twitter, at Fireside Parapod, Parapod. TikTok, I like to try to do some behind-the-scenes stuff or some show promos on TikTok. And we have Patreon now, too. I'm really trying to get this Patreon going. So patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. The cost to join the Patreon is only $2, and it's a way to help fund the show. And I want to start doing things with that, like some extra content or some mail-outs. I'd love to do some mail-outs for y'all. I think that would be a lot of fun. I also have a Discord server that I set up, so if you want to join the Patreon, patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. That also gets you a name drop on the show. Also, be sure to check out firesideparanormal.com. From there, you can get to the merch section. A lot of designs that you can get your merch fix on. There's cell phone cases, there's cups, there's mugs, there's totes, there's pillows, there's, shirts, tank tops, baseball shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, laptop cases, notebooks, pens, magnets. Man, I'm trying to think. There's all kinds of fun stuff on tapestries, some wall hangers. I mean, it's got so many things that you can put the different logos on. I have several different designs on there, so check that out. They actually do, like, if you looked and you're like, man, I don't want to pay those prices, they do sales about twice a month, and I believe it's on sale right now for the Memorial Weekend. Go check it out, firesideparanormal.com. And that is all the time we have for this week. Until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.